Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast. This is Travis McClure and my co-host, Preston Guyton. Preston, how you doing, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
Man, I feel a little bit rusty doing a podcast episode today. I feel like with all the traveling and all the events, we're a little bit out of practice.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous.
Got those first day jitters?
Yeah.
Well, talk to us a little bit. So you came back from FubCon. That was a follow-up bosses event that we talked about a little bit, I believe, our last episode. Talk to us about that. How was that event? Your takeaway on it?
Yeah, man, it was an amazing event. Emily was able to go and she got a lot out of it. She was just talking about it. And it was, a lot of people. What's great about those events is not only obviously the people speaking, but the people that you get to see in person that you interact with online and, been in the real estate business and know each other. And, just in different markets, you do, they comment a lot on social and talk about things. But it was really good seeing all those people. And I also realized 5 days in Vegas is way too long.
I agree with that.
I got there on Monday and I left Friday midday. And it's just, obviously Vegas, but the time change, coming from the East Coast, going to Vegas, it's just, going to bed at the first night, I think I went to bed at 6:00 and woke up at 2:33 in the morning. And walking through Vegas, the casino to go to the gym is very interesting at 3:34 in the morning.
Yeah. Talk about you had a totally different agenda than the other people in the casino at that time.
Yeah. And Starbucks line looks a little bit different at 5 a.m. as well.
Talk to us about running. Obviously, we're a little over a month removed from our half marathon. You still hitting the pavement?
Yeah, I not running as much. I'm probably running about 15 miles a week now. What I think anytime you, especially probably the first time you do one, like it takes a lot out of you. You know. So there was a good week or two, I just felt like a lazy bum. I still was running a little bit, but I definitely, one or 2 days a week wasn't cutting it. So past 2 weeks I've been running a lot more.
Good. Yeah. Are you still doing you're doing a half marathon is it January?
I'm not. We're gonna be out of town. So I'm debating on doing the full marathon in March. I just don't know.
You better decide quick because it's next week you can start training.
I'm already running, but I just I'm definitely going to do the half in March. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the full yet.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want a good 12-week training period, which I suggest, especially for a first marathon, like you got to start pretty much next week, which is, I was about to say, like I've been doing about 20 to 25 miles a week maintenance, and I'm about to ramp it up. I'm in the Best Warrior competition with the Army National Guard next weekend. Right after that, I'm going to ramp up my miles. So,
yeah, I'm most likely we'll be doing the half marathon. I just know my schedule. Like January, we're gone. I think as a family, we're gone for like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's just going to be a lot of then traveling in February for an event in Toronto. And just, we have a lot of stuff going on. So it's most likely will be a half marathon. And that's not an excuse. I don't think I could build up to, because a lot of the marathons you look at, you're running 40 miles a week, 50 miles a week. So then you got to,
you top out about 45 to 50 miles.
Yeah. You got to devote. I mean, that's a lot of time devoted to running. I mean, especially if you're fat and slow like me, 50 miles takes a lot of hours.
Yeah. You're at peak when you're marathon training, and you're right. It's a big, when you say, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, it's a big commitment. You can show up and I think kind of like part-time train for a half marathon and get by. A full marathon, unless you want to hurt real bad, and most people don't, you need to like really invest in some training. And like, your peak run leading up to that is about 22 miles. Typically, most people, when they marathon train, you're talking that's a 3 to 4 hour, 3.5 to 4 hour training run that you're committed to a couple times.
Yeah. It's just a different, and then you see people that train for that. I mean, I'm sure there's people that get injured in a half marathon, but you see people training for a full marathon and still end up getting injured. So I think it's just a whole, it's a whole different, like you said, you could halfway and still get through a half marathon, but full marathon is a different. I mean, you're halfway there. when
You
you're
you have to
doing
be
half.
you have to be very intentional about what you're doing is what I learned. Like you have to, it's one of those things. It's like business, man. You have to have a plan and if you don't stick to it, number one, you're gonna get hurt or you're gonna suffer pretty bad during the
Yeah.
event. But if you have a plan and you stick to it, and I'll say like when we ran the half and going into this marathon, they're the best plans I've ever had. Where it's like if I stick to that plan, I know I'll be okay. It creates a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
But well, good stuff, man. And then talking of big events, we got one coming to the Myrtle Beach area here in February. We kind of officially, or this might be the official announcement. What's happening here in February, Preston?
Yeah. So obviously, I've been going to events for several years and been coaching with John for 5 years. And, I always talk about it and share stuff on social media. And, he's really, I mean, he's big all over now, but, for a majority of his events, we're always in Vegas or out West Coast. So I always wanted to bring him in for an event. And we're finally doing that. So in February, it's going to be the first, the Connection Summit, and sponsored by Easy Home Search and Cheplack Digital. And we're going to be emceeing and presenting. Well, not presenting, just emceeing for it. So it's exciting. It's going to be at the Grand Dunes Marriott, February 23rd. There's going to be a VIP party for. There's only 40 of those tickets available. It's going to be the night before at Dunes Club, so it should be a lot of fun.
So tickets are available right now. Where can people go find those tickets?
Yes, the connectionsummitmb.com. And the tickets are $349, the early bird tickets. And as we get closer to the event, depending on how many tickets we sell, it'll bump up to $399.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in this episode. We got a lot more stuff to talk about. But yeah, so John Cheplack's coming.
Yeah.
Who are some of the other speakers?
John Cheplack, and I need you to announce the next one with some energy.
Oh man, I don't know if I could do him any justice, but Bill Pipes. He
Yes.
definitely brings a ton of energy. I know we said about 20 agents to Atlanta for his agent academy training. Was that about a month ago?
Yeah.
People come back energized, and that's like 2 or 3 days of just him.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his, we were looking at his bio when we were creating the landing page for the event, and he's got like 100,000 hours of coaching calls.
Oh wow.
He's led like over, I think, 300 events. So you look at like sales mastery 300 times.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's, out of any like sales leadership or sales training, real estate training. He's one of the best, if not the best. So, we're excited to have him and John Cheplack. And then, we have 6 others that are going to be exciting to see as well. So it's going to be a great event. It's going to be an event that I don't think there's been an event like it in our market. And the good thing is, like, you look at our market, you go 150 miles in whatever direction, there's probably another, there's probably 20, 25,000 real estate agents. So I think it's going to be it'll be a big event. And I think there'll be a lot of people there. It'll be fun. I think the building, the setup with the tables, I think it could hold about 400 people roughly. Yeah. So I think we could potentially have a full house.
Yeah, and you've already gotten some commitments from agents in different markets. So you're going to get some diversity with different agents. So if you live in the Myrtle Beach area and you like to hear what's going on in other markets, you'll have the ability to do that at this event, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and we have some, Kelly Salter's coming from Jacksonville to speak. So she has an independent company that's done really well. She's grown it to, in 2 years, she has a property management company, and they've, over 500 transactions that amount of time as an independent company. I mean, we have a lot of people that are, driving in, flying in. Matt Smith is going to be flying in, has a great team as well. So
outstanding human being and a great story, Matt Smith. He was one of my favorite speakers when we were in Tahoe.
Yeah, so we're excited to have him. Sunita's coming from Sacramento. I don't think he's ever been on the East Coast before. So Sunit's coming, and number 1 team in California. So he's going to shed a lot of light on like marketing and different things he does. I mean, he's one of the best marketers, I would say, as far as when you look at social media, Instagram, Reels, and all that. He's one of the best out there.
And then you have a couple panels set up as well.
Yeah, I mean, as far as speakers, we have Angie Cole coming from Raleigh. She has an independent company in Raleigh, does really well. And then we have Sammy Knight he's from Texas. He has multiple companies, Remax, and he's actually one of the founders of Mossy. Was it Mossy Oak?
Mossy Oak, yeah, like Mossy the hunting Oak brand.
Yeah, so that's exciting to bring him in. And then my buddy, my good buddy from Florida, or from Florida, from FubCon, Travis is actually he's actually an ISA in the local market. A lot of people, he always goes around and says, "I'm just an ISA." So I think he set up an LLC now. I'm just an ISA LLC. So he's when you're looking at somebody that understands like Follow Up Boss and call action, and I think he said he's had 110 closings from leads he's handed off this year.
That's great.
He's going to be one of the best, and we're going to have a conversion panel. So he and I are going to be on that. You're going to MC that. I don't know if I told you that yet, but you are. So
Yeah, I'm excited. So the Process Podcast is a sponsor of this event.
yes.
So Preston and I will be the MCs for the event. I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, you're gonna come out and do your best buffer voice. Get you a tuxedo, make you super uncomfortable.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
With Bill Pipes and John Temple, those guys bring a ton of energy to the stage. I mean, it will be that kind of energy. I feel.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be all day. I mean, we'll get there. I think it'll start on the 23rd at 8:30 in the morning. We'll go all day until 5. So it'll be jam packed, full of exciting things that are working from different companies all the way across the country. So then obviously you have John and Bill that coach so many teams across the country. I mean, they know all the time what's going on in pretty much every market because they have clients in every single market.
Yeah, both John and Bill. Obviously, we get coached by John, but we invest in a lot of Bill Pipes' content for our agents. Both of those guys I envy a lot because they're students of the industry and are extremely tactical to like what's happening right now and where to focus. And I think that's why, going to an event where you have guys like that and obviously people that coach with and mastermind with on a regular basis with those guys who are students and are very tactical about what's going on in the market is so valuable.
Yeah, and they both, I mean, John Cheplack as well, like he's actually lived it. He's lived
Yeah.
it, breathed it. He was successful, as a branch manager, a broker of a company in California and in Nevada. So he's been there, he's been in the trenches, and he understands how to, obviously I would say the best recruiting leadership coach there is out there.
Oh, 100%.
And, I would say the best leadership real estate coach out there. So he, it's tried and proven. It's not theory, as he would say.
What level of agent would you say this conference is geared towards? And you and I haven't even discussed that.
Yeah, I mean, really any level, an agent looking to, we're going to go into conversion and things like that on the panel and talk about things within Follow Up Boss we're doing, call action. We have another person on the panel we're going to be announcing in the next couple of weeks. So there's going to be a lot of content for the agent that's just getting started to the team leader to the broker owner. So it's really going to be a diverse conversations. And so I don't think there's really one targeted person for this conference.
Well, February 23rd, 2023. We look forward, and obviously we'll probably discuss that a little more as we get closer, but look for that link in the comments or in the description section of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking of any date, what date's better than 2/23? That's the date of the GOAT.
We almost talked about calling it the 23-23.
Yeah. I don't want to get sued for that. So, but the ones that know who 23 is and why I say he's the GOAT.
Are you a big Jordan fan?
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you.
North Carolina, South Carolina. Been here, followed him forever. Back when basketball was fun to watch.
Yeah. You had sent me an image the other day, and I think I saw you posted somewhere on social media. We're going to get in some content here, but just the state of the market and a stat you saw about realtors being able to pay some of their bills. Like what was that stat you had sent to me?
Yeah, it was interesting. We've been, going to events over the last year and a half and talking to John, and John a year ago or a year and a half ago was on stage at Tahoe. I didn't happen to be there, but he had mentioned this on some of our calls. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's coming, and it's a train. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that, like this was a year and a half ago, and now that train is here. So you're starting to see articles and in those conversations and events and everything we've had, it's always you're going to see a 30% fallout. Some markets you might see a 40% fallout over the next probably 18 months as far as realtor fallout. And I saw it, I was going through Inman, and an article somebody had written was, I'm not sure where they pulled the stats from, but obviously there's surveys sent out and everything else. 37% of real estate agents, real estate professionals that were surveyed were late on their rent for October.
Yeah. And I think that's a pretty interesting stat. Another thing you had said is you and I just kind of messaging back and forth where that's a probably direct correlation with people who won't pay their dues, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if yeah, and that's what we were saying. Like, there's going to be a 30 to 40% fallout of agents across the country. Some areas more so than others, so it's market dependent, but it's still going to happen in all markets. But the percentages obviously are going to be different. But yeah, I think it's a direct correlation to what you're going to see with paying dues come January or before January. So, people are going to have to start going out and filling those jobs that aren't were not filled for a long time. You're going to
Yeah.
start seeing a lot of those jobs filled, which in turn helps out a lot of things, right? When you're looking at the whole economy, when there's manufacturing issues because jobs aren't being filled, now all
Yeah.
of a sudden they're being filled because people need to get paid. So I think it's going to correct a lot of things, but yeah, it's interesting. You're starting to see a lot of those articles come out, and when I saw that one, that was the first thing I thought of. And it's not to scare agents. I mean, they can be successful, and they will be successful if they put in the work. I mean, as simple as that. There's no secret
Well,
to
well,
success in real estate when
I,
you look at it.
well, let's flip it around because there's a positive side to that story as well. I know it sounds doom and gloom, but there's a positive. So that's approximately 1/3, right? 37%, approximately 1/3.
Yep.
So you look at, earlier this year, we went to an event. First time I ever saw Bill Pipe speak, he talked about there's going to be a tale of three agents, right? You can have the agent that goes out of business. You can have the agent that business stays the same. You can have the agent that's able to grow their business in this tough time. We've seen it in every economic downturn that's happened, right? Where some agents left the industry, some agents just survived, and some agents actually grew. So when you have agents leaving the industry, 1/3 that are going to leave the industry just because they'd rather go do something else rather than make phone calls, essentially, right? You have the other two agents that you're going to have some agents that are going to be able to survive because there's a residual. You're going to have some agents that are aggressive and double down in their prospecting, and they're going to grow their business.
Yeah, I mean, it's the math is there, right? It's not
Yeah.
going to be a situation where we saw in 2007, 2008, where it just totally collapsed, or we don't see that happening anyway. I mean, who's to tell what tomorrow holds? But
Right.
as far as what we see in the data, it's not going to happen. But yeah, if you look at it, even if the market dropped, say 50% there's a thing too, like we're all comparing it to the best year ever in the history of real estate sales, which was 2021.
Right.
So when you compare a year to the best year ever, and like, oh no, it's down, but there's always there's positives, right? Because if you look in 2019, I think the data shows there was about 90 billion in total real estate commissions paid in 2019.
Yeah.
2022, it's forecasted to be at like 110 or 120 billion. So yeah, less transactions, more commission. So when you look at it from that standpoint, 30% dropping out, 40% dropping out, the market drops 50%. Guess what? You're pretty much, when you look at the amount of agents, the amount of transactions that are able to add is pretty much the same. So for me, sometimes it's for anybody, that's willing to put in the work and is a student of what they're doing. I mean, a lot of them will look forward to this time.
Yeah, it's interesting to me too. I think where agents have to think outside the box a little bit, and I've seen it in this market. Obviously, my role recently has shifted where I'm doing some more work on the easy home search side with our inside sales agents. And I think it's as an agent, if you had a lot of success when the market was on a rise with a particular lead source or talking to a particular client source, when the market changes, you have to change your approach a little bit, right? Like you can't continue to do the same thing because I'll use our market in Myrtle Beach as an example. Like, why are people scared of the market right now? Or why are people putting things, well, interest rates, right? Well, who's not scared of interest rates? Cash buyers, investors, people selling their homes in other markets and have taken a lot of equity out and coming to your market, right? Now, some people might be listening to a market where that doesn't apply, but our market, it totally does. So you gotta say, am I in a position where I'm talking to those people? Because that's where the fish are, right? That's where most of the buyers are. Like if you and I were to go out a boat and go fishing, we'd have a fish finder on the boat. it would make more sense for us to stop the boat where the fish are
Yeah.
versus just randomly trying to prospect or randomly trying to fish in different parts of the ocean where there might be fish. And you got to think that way as an agent. So, like, think about the things I just said. Where can you find those people?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely I mean, you always got to look at your marketing message and the work you're doing, because the work you're doing today doesn't mean you'll be successful in a year from now.
Mhm.
But there are the things that we know that in any market work, right? Prospecting and,
Yeah.
calling and doing all the things that a majority won't do. And it's one of those, whatever you do, usually when you focus on what the 10% are doing and the 90% are not willing to do, you'll be successful.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to also like, yeah, we got to look at where the business is. That's a thing. But the other part of it, I think a bigger piece, and you touched on it a little bit, is I'm a firm believer. I think you see it not just in real estate, but in all industries. Really good economic markets create really bad habits. And I'm going to caveat that they also create really bad customer service
Yeah.
issues. And I think realtors, especially, fall into that category, right? There's a lot of really bad habits, and we can even touch on a few if you want, but there's a lot of really bad habits that realtors sometimes fall into. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, whether it's, not following up, I mean, is one of the easiest ones. And, or ending a conversation without what the next step is. I mean, there's things like that. Like you and I were talking as far as like the inside sales team,
Mhm.
when you close out follow-up boss and you're under a client, use call action to create a text for a week from now or 2 weeks from now. Go ahead and save that. That text will go out to the customer, a client, hopefully client, and then you could respond to it then. So there's a lot of things like when you're an agent, when you always want to close something out with the next step, and you always talk about that. Next step, what's the next task? What are you going to do? Don't just close it out without something in the future. So getting away from those bad habits, but getting away from the bad habits of things like Zillow and Realtor.com, just waiting for a lead to land in your lap, and they're wanting to
Yeah.
buy a $500,000 beach house, and you paid $500 for that lead, and those days are, you can still buy leads, but does the investment make sense, and does it make more sense to learn how to do that yourself?
Right.
To hire somebody, or have, with Chef Like Digital, we're teaching people, like we're actually teaching people how to set up pay-per-click accounts. We're setting them up an account they own. So eventually maybe they can learn how to run it themselves. Instead of trying to be a hero, we're trying to be a guide to, guide people through and help them understand on how to, do things like that they can manage themselves and make it predictable. Where if you just throw money at something that's a different company, at the end of the day doesn't really care. They'll flip a switch tomorrow and change what they're doing. But this is a market to do things like that.
It just reminds me of like a super old saying of, do you want somebody who's just going to give you the fish, or do you want someone who's going to teach you how to fish?
Yeah.
Right. That's really what it comes to. When you know how to fish, you're really in control of your own destiny from a business
Oh,
standpoint.
100%.
I think a lot about, I had a coach early in my real estate career who he used to say this all the time, and I find it to be true like 100% of the time, is all real estate agents' problems with their business come from two things: their schedule and their ability to prospect.
Yeah.
And I think, I'll break them down separately, but schedule, yeah, I think like if you go back to the market a year ago, 18 months ago, real estate agents became very reactive. Hey, I want to buy a house. Hey, we want to put an offer on this house. Hey, this is at the market. We want to go see it. You were very reactive, right? And whatever free time you had, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted with your business or personal, because you were just reacting to people. You were you were taking orders
Yeah.
essentially. Now I think you have to flip the script and you have to be very proactive. That's where realtors will get an advantage. Like, do you actually schedule your prospecting time?
Yeah. I mean, and you look at that too. You talk about schedule. What's easier, to come up with a new schedule every day or keep something consistent?
Consistent.
I mean, consistency, if you want like a stress, obviously you're never going to have a total stress-free life, but if you want less stress in your life, come up with a consistent schedule that you should, that you could be successful with, and stick to that. And just, I mean, I've struggled the last month with my schedule, and I'll say that. I mean, we all struggle. I mean, I struggled this morning. I was like, do I really want to work out? And the little gremlin in my head was talking me out of working out, and I went and ran 3 miles and worked out. So it's, I think we all struggle with the same things. It's just actually just doing it.
Yeah. And I think you got to set, and I hate to use the word goals, but you have to set commitments of, hey, you know what? I'm going to make 120 dials every single day. right? Which is very achievable,
Yeah.
right? And I say goal because goal, when you say the word goal, it's like I'd like to, or it'd be nice to, or it's not a big deal if you don't get it. But commitment is, hey, I need this for my business every single day. So set that commitment, put it on a schedule, and then just do it. And really, you're knocking out two of the worst habits agents normally have that affect their business the most is the willy nilly schedule, and then like the inability to prospect. Well, what if it's in your schedule every single
Yeah.
day? Go ahead.
Yeah, and like you said, commitment. I mean, like I'm gonna hop off here after this and sign up for the half marathon in March because then I know if I'm signed up, I got to actually go out there and put more miles in.
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't think I'm ready for a full. Just more so, I could be ready, but I just between now and just like my schedule and time away and everything else, it would just be more difficult. So I want to have more time to get ready for that.
Yeah.
Two half marathons and then a full. I think that's a good schedule to have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at those bad habits. I think scheduling, realtors get into the business with a flexible schedule. They get spoiled by the business where you could have a quote unquote flexible schedule. Now they're in a situation where they have time and they don't know how to fill it. I'm going to tell you the way to fill it. If you have nothing in your schedule today,
Yeah.
get out there and prospect, like prospect with that time that you have. The other uh, failure, or I shouldn't use the word failure. The other struggle I see agents having right now that I talk with is they got out of the habit, or maybe they never had the habit of being students of their market.
Yeah.
And that's simple. Like if you're like, hey, I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean study the market? Well, number one, you should know, like, especially where you do a lot of business, you should know what houses sell for, right? Your ability to talk about the market is what gives people confidence to work with you as an agent. Number one, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market and people are like, oh, we think we should wait. If you have an ability to talk about what's happening in the market confidently, you have the ability to change people's perception on, hey, should we buy or sell right now based on the data that you're giving them, right? But I think the easiest thing you can do as an agent is, and I teach brand new agents because it's like the number one easiest thing you can do. Look in your MLS every single day at what got listed today. What got listed today? Like what's newly listed in your market? And there's a lot of listings out there right
Yeah.
now. Go through listing by listing and say, hey, is there a person in my database I talk to that this house makes sense for? That this house makes sense for? That this house makes sense for, right? One by one by one. And it gives you a reason to follow up with that person who said, hey, we're waiting because of interest rates. And you always got to make sure you ask the question, well, if you found the perfect house, would you make a move? Right? Now you're calling them like, hey, Joe, I saw this house hit the market today. I thought about you guys. It looks like the perfect house. Just want to see what you thought of it. I'm going to send it to you in your email. Take a look at it. Let me know if that piques your interest at all. If not, no big deal. I'll keep an eye out for you anyway. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and you said student of the market as well. There's ways to get into the fours right now. There's a lot of programs that mortgage companies
Oh,
are
yeah.
putting out 2-to-1 buy downs, or, there's a bunch of different ones out there that if you're an agent and all of a sudden somebody has that, and the question is, okay, well, if you found the right house and you could, you could be, obviously you would have to understand the credit. Well, you wouldn't have to, but obviously they wouldn't be able to qualify for some of those if they didn't. But I mean, it's a question to have that then they could speak to a lender and say, hey, you have the opportunity to maybe see something in the mid to high fours. If you could do that, would this house make sense, or would it be a better time for you to buy now? So there's a lot of you're starting to see a lot of those ARM programs, or the 2-to-1 buy down, or all those programs come out now to combat the rates that are the higher rates that are out there now. But even like last week, I mean, was that last week or 2 weeks ago? The inflation information came out and the rates fell into the sixes.
Yeah. And we saw a flurry of activity too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks have been crazy busy. So things like that happen.
You got to
It's
reach back out.
it's a good time to say send a text, or shoot them a personal text. Just go through it, and you could save a template and say something like, hey, did you see the movement in the rates into the sixes now, or whatever, just to start that conversation. And maybe they don't buy, or maybe they do, but I mean, sometimes we just assume people see all that information, and a lot of times if they're not in real estate and they're not in this business, they don't pay attention to that every day.
And if they do see it and you didn't tell them, sometimes it's too late. Because I can tell you again, I've been working with our ISAs, and when that news came out for like 2 or 3 days right after, it was a flurry of information. There was people wanting to talk to realtors, and I have a strong suspicion, even looking at some of the notes and some of the calls, a lot of those people were fence sitters.
Oh yeah,
we're like, no, we're not going to do anything because, well, interest rates fell a little bit. They've had their eyes on some homes that are in their eyes, a good deal from a price perspective that were too competitive a year ago. There was a flurry of activity around that news
Yeah,
in
and you
terms
look
of
at
connections.
too like you know, if I was an agent and I, you know, just thinking about what we're talking about now, I would tag people, right? I would tag people, you know, lower rate.
Yeah.
You know, create a tag for low rate or waiting for rates to decrease. All of a sudden I could pull that list of people from my database on all waiting for rates and I'm going to blast them with a text message and an email, you know, go through, because obviously it's probably not going to be hundreds of people. If it's your database, maybe it's 50 or whatever it is, go through and text every single one and send them an email at the same time. And, you know, maybe that takes you an hour to do, but you know, it could, I mean, if you work an hour to get one sale, I would say it's probably worth your time.
No, I'm a huge fan of tags. I do that, like I said, I do a lot of follow-up calls and stuff like that. And I'll give you an example. Like around here, a lot of people are searching for homes. The interest rate one is a great one, but I'm going to give you like Myrtle Beach specific, and it might work for some other markets. Think about it this way. A lot of times you'll be on the phone with a buyer and they're like, hey, we'd like to be, a golf cart ride to Myrtle's Inlet, for under X amount of dollars, right? I'm like, okay, great. And I'll put that in the notes and I create a little tag, golf cart ride to Myrtle's Inlet, right? And you're doing what I talked about a minute ago, and you're going through what hit the market, what hit the market, what hit the market, and you see that house, and you can search the tag. Now you got 5 people to follow up with that's the house they said they could possibly be interested in.
Yeah.
Think about the VAT. That's a way better phone call, or the interest rate conversation is a way better phone call to make versus, hey, Preston, just calling to check in. How's that home search going?
Yeah. You get your winter pipes ready, whatever. Yeah. Spring cleaning.
Right. You sound super versus
18 spring cleaning tips that you receive in January to prepare for spring.
Right. Versus
all those canned. Yeah.
Versus you saying to me the last time we spoke, hey, we'd love to be a golf cart ride from Myrtle's Inlet. That's what's important to you. You told me what was important to you. Now I'm calling you like, hey, Preston, I just found this house, just hit the market today. It's a golf cart ride from Myrtle's Inlet. What do you think? Like, I'm going to send it to you via text, or I'm going to send it to you in your email. Take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this checks the boxes. And if it doesn't, just let me know.
Yeah. 100%.
That guy, Travis, like he's on it. He's looking for a house for think about that from a service standpoint.
Oh yeah.
You want to separate yourself from every other realtor in your market or other salespeople or other agents. That's a differentiator right there that people aren't doing.
Yeah, 100%.
And all you're doing is using tags and being a student of your market.
Yeah, and getting that information, like, the dog owners. Okay, is a dog park important? I think the national average is like 40% of people have an actual dog. So, that's, those questions when you're digging in, I mean, those are things that you create tags for. And I wouldn't create a zillion different tags, but tags that make sense. I mean, like you just said, that it's for us, east of 17 is a big thing, right? So east of 17, you don't have to pass any highways to get to the ocean. Like major highways. So like east of 17, no matter where it's at, east of 17 business, no matter where it's at, it's, you could safely drive a golf cart.
Another good one around here is people because we have obviously great weather, but not a ton of homes have pools.
Yeah.
I always use I'll put a pool tag on somebody who says yeah, we'd love to have a backyard with a pool. If we found that house, we'd probably do something, for the right price. Okay. Boom. Pool. I could pull that tag up. There's a ton of buyers I could follow up with hey, check this out. This house has a great pool in the backyard.
Yep.
Great conversation. Right. So just think about stuff like that you didn't have to do a year ago. Right. Or you couldn't do because that house would have sold in 12 hours.
This is the perfect podcast for after FubCon because we're talking about how to follow up.
Yeah. And obviously that always, we've done a ton of episodes, I feel like, on tools you got to have. You have to have a CRM that allows you to do this stuff. We're not sponsored by FubCon. I think it's the best CRM out 100%. There. And I think, and there's other comparable pieces of software we can name. There's great CRMs, but if you don't have one of those that you could rely on in your business, you're at a disadvantage, especially right now.
Yeah. And the next FubCon event, if you're listening to this as an agent, team leader, or whatever, I would not miss it. I think the next one they're going to have is going to be in Austin next year, which is, cool. I will be there. Go ahead and tell my wife when the date comes out.
Austin's a cool city. And the CEO of Follow Up Boss, Dan Corkle, he was a guest on our show very early on. Great entrepreneurial story on how he started his business.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I mean, he really is really just down to earth. I mean, hung out with him quite a bit at FubCon, and he's super genuine guy, really cares about his, client base, his employees. I mean, just him and his partner are both great people.
Yeah. Well, I guess as we wrap up this episode, Preston, I think, the thing to think about, really, I go back to what I heard Bill Pipe say earlier in the year, the tale of three agents, and we're seeing it, right? Yeah. And this isn't doom and gloom. Like, you're going to fall into one of three categories, and really it's just a matter of choices as to which direction your business goes. Like, if you're okay with it staying the same, do what you got to do to keep it the same. If you're okay with not being in real estate anymore, don't make calls.
Yeah. And, I think about that too. Like, that was the Mike Tyson quote, when everybody's, what is it, until they get punched in the face?
Everybody has a plan when they enter a fight until you get punched in the face.
Yeah. And I think of that because, the conversations I've had, because I think we were delayed by a lot of other markets too, because a lot of other markets had felt it. And in the last 2 months,
we had a lot of time to see it coming. Yes.
Yeah. But still, a lot of agents, the conversations I had in the last week or 2 or 3 weeks, they're all like, what in the heck just happened? Like, where did that come from? It happened in the last 2-3 months. It's just out of nowhere. It's just like everything dropped.
But you know what I love about all of that conversation? We talked about the two agents, right? Go out of business, stay the same. They're still the agents. We have them in this office that have grown their business in the last 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
In the last 120 days. Why? Because they're out there, they're prospecting. They've taken the time to double down on the things that are working for them and creating a business plan around it and making it happen. So this isn't doom and gloom. This is like, well, if this isn't working, you got to do something different.
Yes.
So guys, have a great rest of your day. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.